Hello, today, I'm going to guide you through sewing our new back corset pattern. You can download this corset sewing pattern at katkow.net. The corset includes added breast and hip structure, perfect for drag queens, and is one of our more advanced patterns. Let's get started. For this project, I'll be using non-stretch fabrics. A faux pebble grain leather for the shell corset body. A faux suede for the shell bra cups and hips. And a cotton fabric for the lining. You can of course mix and match the shell fabric as you wish. You'll also need quite a bit of notions. Medium weight fusible interfacing for added fabric structure. Intimate foam for the bra cups. 3 types of boning, a wide rigaline boning for the corset body which you can sew over. A smaller rigaline boning for the bra cups and edges. And plastic boning for the shell, which you cannot sew over. Twill tape to cover the boning, making sure it's wider than the bones. A grommet and eyelet tool, with metal eyelets. Cord for lacing the back of the corset. And 1/2-inch double-folded bias tape for the bottom trim. Optionally, you may need additional bra cup pads and wires for shaping the bust. The pattern comes with an A0, A4, and US letter PDFs for printing and is available in sizes extra small to 4X. For this tutorial, I'll be using a size large. The corset has 6 paper pieces for the body. 4 for the hips, 4 for the bra, and 4 for the bra interfacing. Start by cutting the bra interfacing using intimate foam. These pattern pieces are the same as the bra cups, but without the seam allowance. For the lining, cut all of the paper pattern pieces on 2 layers of fabric. I'm using a non-stretch cotton fabric for the lining. For the shell, I will use a faux suede for the bra cups and hips, cut on 2 fabric layers. And for the corset body, I'll be using faux pebble grain leather, also cut on 2 fabric layers. Let's start by sewing the bra interfacing. Sew the pieces together, side by side, using a zigzag stitch. Once done, mark where you'll sew on the rigaline boning to give the cups more structure. Sew the boning in place using a zigzag stitch and set aside. Next, we'll sew the lining. Start by sewing the hip pieces to the body pieces, body piece 3 to hip 2, and body piece 4 to hip 3, with the right sides of the fabric facing each other. Then press the seams after sewing. Sew the 2 body 1 pieces together along the center front, right sides facing each other. Then sew the body 2 pieces to the sides of body 1. Press the seams, making sure they're pointed away from the center front. Overlay twill tape over the seams on the wrong side of the fabric to create tunnels for the boning. Sew the twill tape over the seams, leaving enough room for inserting the boning. Before cutting the bones, mark 1 inch from the top and bottom edges of the tape. Measure the space between the marks and use this for your bone lengths. Next, you can sew the hip 1 pieces to the bottom edge of body 1 and 2. Then press your hip seams facing down. You can then sew on body 3 and body 4 to the sides of body 2, right sides facing each other. Once sewn, press your edges and cut small snips around any curved seam. Then sew on twill tape for those seams. We can now prepare the back pieces. Add fusible interfacing to the wrong side of the body 6 pieces. This will give more structure where your eyelets will be placed. Like the front pieces, sew body 6 to body 5, right sides facing each other, and add twill tape over the seam. Then sew on the hip 4 piece to the bottom edge of body 5 and 6. You can now sew the body 5 to body 4, right sides facing each other. Then sew on more twill tape over the seam. Next, we're going to sew on a waist tape using the same twill. This will not have bones inserted but instead help the tension of the fabric when wearing the corset. Pin the tape along the waistline over the vertical tapes. Make sure your fabric and waist tape is pulled and laid flat. You want to sew vertically over the seams of the twill tape below to allow you to insert boning later. Do not sew the waist tape over the body 6 pieces. This area will have more bones and eyelets. Next we can add horizontal twill tape over the hips. Add tape over the hip seam. This time you want to carefully sew horizontally, but only in between the vertical tapes below. Do not sew over the vertical tapes. Then repeat for a second horizontal tape over the hip guideline. Before inserting the boning, make sure the ends are curved or melted so they don't puncture your fabric. Insert all of your vertical bones first. Once they are all placed inside, you can then sew the unsewn gaps of the horizontal tapes, sewing over the vertical bones and tape. Once sewn, you can then insert your horizontal bones. You will notice some wrinkling of the fabric. To fix this, you want to sew the horizontal and vertical bones together where they meet, making sure to pull on the fabric so it's nice and taut. Your lining should now look like this. To add the bra cup lining, simply sew all the pieces together, right sides facing each other, and press the seams. Next, make sure to insert your bones along the body 2 seam. Once inserted, you can attach and sew on the bra cup lining, right sides facing each other. You can now layer the bra foam cups over the wrong side of the lining bra cups and pin them in place. I like to sew them to the lining with a zigzag stitch, following the seams of the bra cups. Additionally, to give the bottom of the corset more structure, you will want to add twill tape and more bones to the bottom edges of the lining. The shell is much easier. For the shell body, simply sew all the pieces together, right sides facing each other. For the seams of the shell, you want to sew the seam fabric down to create tunnels instead of using twill tape. For the center front, spread both layers of fabric on the seam and top stitch the edges of both sides, leaving enough space to insert your non-sewable plastic boning later. And for all other seams, you can create only one tunnel by folding both layers of fabric facing the same direction, away from the center front. Then repeat for all other body shell pieces. Sew the shell bra cup pieces together and top stitch the seams following the same seam direction as the body. And the same for the shell hip pieces. You can then sew the hips to the bottom of the body, right sides facing each other. And the bra cups to the top of the body. Then top stitch the seams down under the hips and bra cup seams. You can now attach the lining to the shell. Stack them right sides facing each other. Then sew along the top edge and bust points only. Trim the fabric around the bust points, and flip the fabric over to see the detail of your bust points. You may want to trim more off to get a sharp point. Once you are satisfied with the points, flip the fabric wrong side out and sew along the center back sides. Once sewn, trim off the excess seam fabric. Then carefully flip the garment right side out. Next, top stitch around the sides and top of the garment. Use clips to help keep the fabric flat and in place. For the center back body, 6 pieces. Sew 2 rows of vertical lines, no less than ½ inches away from each other, creating 3 vertical columns. You will add 2 bones around the center column where we will install eyelets. Once sewn, you can insert your plastic boning to the 2 outside columns. You can also insert boning for the body. For the body sides, you want to carefully make a small hole at the bottom of each tunnel, on the wrong side of the shell, allowing you to insert the bones above the hip pieces. Insert your bones along the shell body and shell hip seams. You want to also make holes at the bra cup tunnel to insert your bra wire. I noticed the suede fabric I used stretched a little, so I added pre-made bra cups to help fill out the bust fabric. I then hand sewed them to the lining fabric only. Next, you can sew the bottom edge of the corset together using a double folded bias tape with clips. Fold in the ends of the bias tape before sewing. We can now install eyelets using the guide on the pattern or by adding marks about 1 inch apart from each other. Feel free to add more eyelets closer together. You can then add cord to lace up your corset. I used 200 inches of cord. And your back corset is finished. You can download this sewing pattern at katkow.net. Be sure to like and subscribe for more sewing tutorials. Thank you for watching.